Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of your favorite podcast here covering St. Louis sports, the Lunatics Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Edwards. With me, I've got my co host, John Love, and we're going to focus tonight on a lot of things St. Louis City after having two games to cover. And last night was an exciting game to be at. John, why don't you give me a little bit of your thoughts from last night?
Oh God, are we just gonna skip Houston, or are we just what are we
We'll,
what are we
we'll get
doing
into
here?
Houston. I just meant more about atmosphere, being at the game.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, here's the thing, okay? We've had two games this week, and they're both draws, and I consider them both wins. So I'm excited to talk about that. Last night was great. The atmosphere is always good at City Park. It's always loud. You could tell the supporter section was really into it last night. Could tell that people did not like the refereeing last night. Um, and, I'm probably going to talk more about this later, but even by our historically poor standards of refereeing at St. Louis City games, this was possibly a new all time low. So, don't know
I,
what to say about that.
I just want to highlight a couple of, exciting things last night. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been to a couple of city games. My wife has yet to be to an actual city game until last night. Great experience, was able to actually sit that first row off the field. I want to give a shout out. I'm sure he's listening because why wouldn't he be? But Edward
Why wouldn't
Leuven,
he?
absolute class act. The guy, after the game, the rest of the team, they made their rounds, went to the locker room. He came over and stood over there while it was raining, shirtless at this point because he had given away his jersey and his undershirt.
Right.
Signed everything that anyone threw at him, took pictures with people. As you can see here, I now have a nice Edward Leuven signature on top of my hat. Made my wife's night. She actually took pictures while we were up in the concourse because she was just so impressed by the fact that he was still down there just signing
Oh yeah.
anything and everything that came to him. Absolute class act. You can tell how much he just loves and appreciates the fans in the city. And for me, it was just something I really wanted to call out. And I thought it was a great opportunity, great experience. And you can tell just made tons of people's night there at the end of
Oh
the
yeah.
game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and that was the thing that Lutz and BC have talked about, that whenever they were first scouting players, that they really kind of put this first group, and I hope they continue to do it through like interviews almost, like really getting to know them and making sure that they had the right personality mix that they were bringing in. And I mean, you can see that with Edu, you can see it with Klaus, you can see it with Indy, right? Like every single one of these guys plays a very clear role in the locker room and with the fans. And really, we're just really lucky to have all of them. Like, couldn't have asked for a better first team.
Oh, yeah, not at all. And so super exciting. Great to see amazing support, amazing appreciation for the support coming from somebody like Leuven.
Oh yeah.
So I got zero complaints there. Exciting. Let's get into Houston because I think Houston has
Yeah.
at least one very exciting thing for the people who follow our podcast. For those of you who didn't know, Celio Pompeu is a fan favorite of mine. He got a start there against Houston, which I was excited to see him back in the lineup and just back with the first team. You and I had discussed previously that there was a little bit of confusion that, I know he'd been playing with City too, but we hadn't even really even seen him listed as a sub. And he really brings something different than what the rest of the team does as far as his on the ball skills.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that a little bit, being a little bit of a pest, drawing that yellow
Oh
card
yeah.
and the foul there.
God, that okay. That was a just an amazing run, right? And I know that I guess it would be the left back for Houston who brought him down, or maybe the left center back. And he was really pissed about that. He thought the ball went out of bounds, that he didn't call it. Like whatever, you know that the whole ball has to go over. Like get over it. But like, and it was a tactical foul, very deserving of a yellow. But like, he just got straight beat. Like just got straight beat. And he's really lucky that he brought him down where he did, because if he had waited another like half a step to a step, Celio would have gone down in the box, and that would have been a pin. But that run that Celio made, like that's why we need him in the team, because he does have that skill that no one else does. We've got a couple guys that'll go straight to goal like him, but he gets that ball and he immediately turns and he's taking it straight up the field, and he's shifty. He can make guys miss and get past them in a way that not a lot of other guys on our team can.
Yeah, he does. And I think that's why there's a lot of things I appreciate about him. He's got a tenacity about him where he just
Right.
gets after people. It doesn't matter if you're a big, strong guy like Pete Alonso. Celio's not going to back down from that. And so
That joke never gets old. I'm sorry, that joke never gets old. Please continue. I think we've said it every episode.
For those of you who've listened and keep hearing this Pete Alonso joke,
We'll
please look
explain
up
later.
Pete Alonso, big, strong guy. There's an interview about him saying that essentially because he's a big, strong guy, he could put somebody in the hospital. The guy was offline when he said it, but that's why this keeps coming up. Please go listen to that interview if you get the chance. More importantly, Celio's not afraid of a big, strong guy like Pete Alonso.
No.
He's going to come right at you, and he's got that just fiery mentality. I think it showed in the game why I don't think he's really ready to start. I don't think he's ready to go a full 90, and that there was a little bit of lack of chemistry there. And part of that can be attributed to the fact Klaus has been out, but two, I think, he doesn't get the first team minutes, but I really love him more in the current role of St. Louis City as that change of pace player late in the game when we need somebody who can get down into the corner, get down to the box, because he's not, for everything Celio does, he looks to pass first when he gets to the box if there's somebody there. And I think that in and of itself really opens us up for opportunities late in a game when we need that change of pace and that opportunity to create a goal or create a scoring chance late in the game. And again, if he can come at and make those runs like he did against Houston, but late in the game when their defense is already tired and ran down a little bit, I think he's going to would have an even greater impact, a la Ostrak.
So before I had, other points I wanted to make, but I just had this wonderful image during that monologue. Could you just imagine Celio like getting a ball and turning, and the defender is Pete Alonso and Celio just like putting him on skates? Like, would that just not be like glorious to watch it? Like, I really want to set this up. Just like it could be like,
do you know what would be even better?
Joes versus pros, but it'd be like pros of one sport versus pros of a different.
Do you know
sport.
what would make me even happier?
What's that?
Is if he turns and he puts Chiellini on skates and face plants.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'd get called for a foul somehow, but either way,
that's an LAFC conversation.
Okay. So back to the Houston game. It was exciting to see. I loved seeing him in the lineup. The one thing that I didn't like about where he was in the lineup, and I think he plays great on the right side, is by putting him in the right side, it means you have to put Stroud on the left.
Right.
If Stroud's in the game. And I don't love that. And you and I had a conversation about this. I'll let you recap because you were the one who kind of brought up the thought of attacking versus defensive mindset here.
Yeah, I think it was about the pairing, right? It was about having an attacking player and a defending player on the same side of the field. Because with Stroud, Stroud gets a lot of hate because he's not as good on the ball as a lot of the other guys that we have.
He's got plenty of hate for me over that, right?
Yes, right. But he's there to defend from the front and to just constantly be pressing. And one of the things that I really liked about that game is I felt like our press was very, very good that game. And a lot of that I think you can attribute to Stroud because he's like when our press is doing really well, it's always like 2 or 3 guys closing down from various angles. And a lot of times it's Stroud that's being that second or third guy. But back to the pairing. So on the left, we had Stroud with Anthony Marcanic. But then on the right, you had Celio paired with Nerwinski. So we could have flipped the wingers there, but then you completely go asymmetrical. And yeah, the attack looks different on the right versus the left, but you can attack from either side. And you can't then Houston wasn't really able to shut off one side of the field as much, basically, is my thought.
Yeah, I think it's a good call out because Marcanic is a great attacking defender. And he's honestly impressed me more as each game with his ability. I think he's getting more comfortable in our system as far as dropping and playing defense as well.
Yeah.
But when you've got an attacking left back, having somebody like Stroud who's not afraid to play, who plays a
Hmm.
little bit stronger defense.
Right.
But then you have somebody like Nerwinski, and Nerwinski is a lot like Stroud in the fact that neither one's real strong on the ball.
Right.
And so had to have somebody like Celio over there with Nerwinski, who's
Hmm.
very strong on the ball, really helps
Right.
to not allow
Right.
Houston to cheat on one side of the
Right.
field or the other.
Right. I've got three thoughts about this, about the fullback and the wing play of that game. Number one, I think it was the River City Ramble podcast did like kind of like a joint thing with a Colorado Rapids podcaster. And one of the things that came up during that is I guess Marcanic, when he was used at the Rapids, was actually used primarily as a defensive fullback. But he probably, showed enough flashes when he had the ball, or in City 2, whenever, your talent level can really like shine if you're like better than everyone else, to show that he's, really got some skills in the attack. And that's why Lutz went and grabbed him. And God, what a steal of a trade that we got there. I mean, it's no Nolan Arenado where Colorado is paying St. Louis to take their best player. Still a good trade where we fleeced Colorado.
Here's what I'd like to point out about us fleecing Colorado here. Colorado's owned by Stan Kroenke. So anytime we take one of their
Yes.
players, that's good. Second of all,
Well, as long as it's a good player.
Colorado has staged a walkout. Their supporter
Yes.
section
Yes, I saw that.
legitimately had banners calling out ownership.
Yeah.
So to think about how well our ownership and how well our team has done in their first season, and then to remember the fact that even better than everything else is that
Hmm.
Kroenke doesn't own our team and is actually our
Absolutely.
ownership team cares. It's amazing. And, you know, I'm excited to see what happens. And Marcanic's still a young kid. The guy's going to
Yeah,
keep developing. And so
absolutely.
if we can keep him,
Hmm.
that solidifies our left back position better than we ever thought. And again, you still have Pedro there.
Hmm.
So if something happens, if Marcanic gets signed or gets, we end
Hmm.
up transferring him to a European club at some point, which
Right.
could be the case if he can continue to play well and keep improving. I could
Hmm.
see them signing him as a, developmental type prospect, one of the
Right.
European clubs. We've still got Pedro loaned out, who I still think will be potentially our left back of the future if
Oh
that
yeah.
happens.
Yeah, I could
Currently,
see that.
Marcanic's got it locked down, but it never hurts to have a second really good left back. So,
No, no. Um, my other two thoughts on the wing play, I thought Celio did a great job of helping out in the defense on the right side, though. I was very impressed with how well he was tracking back. And I mean, we know he can cover ground quickly and that he likes to press, but still, it was just very nice to see. And the other thought I had, and the goal notwithstanding, okay, but I thought Nerwinski had a very good game for 99% of it. And I'll talk about that 1% here in a second. But he was going up against, I think, mostly Quinones, who's a very good winger for Houston. And he looked good. He looked like he could play, and I mean, he's had a few rough months, I think, since Watts kind of took over, but he definitely looked like he's got a role and a spot in the team. And I was very happy with his play. Now, that is including the goal. I think on the goal, the defense on that side of the field in general kind of got caught ball watching,
yep.
and I was it Baird, I think, came in, got the score late run in. I thought it was a great build-up play by Houston, but and I don't know if I don't know how we, design and assign our responsibilities, but watching it definitely looked more like Nerwinski was the one who should have been aware that he was coming in, because it kind of seemed like Celio was covering someone farther out wide. And then it seemed like both Nerwinski and Tim kind of stepped up to someone in the center, probably Hector
Nielsen.
Herrera.
I'm going to
Nielsen.
correct you, but it was
It
Nielsen
was
and
Nielsen.
and
Yeah.
Parker both stepped up.
Right. Well, I
And
think
then
Nerwinski kind of
and
did
then
too. It's a weird
Nerwinski,
angle.
and then it looked almost like Nerwinski started to step up to step to
Hmm.
somebody,
Right.
but
That's
he
what I'm
didn't
saying.
catch the runner coming
Right.
in.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean, it came straight from behind him, but you still, I mean, how many times did you hear as a kid, like, you got to have your head on a swivel, right? Like, you got to be like aware of what's happening around you.
I agree. And I'm that goal notwithstanding, that goal is not what lost us the game. That first half against Houston, in my mind, was the most complete half of soccer we've
Right.
played in a long time.
Right.
I think if we played every half like we played that first half against Houston, the
Hmm.
way we're pressing, the way we're creating,
Right.
there was everybody was in it. And, thinking back to Klaus, right? Klaus's touch was off. He was not
I
on
thought
his
so too.
game,
I thought he was
but
just like half a pace off on the chemistry from everyone, half a
and he
touch.
was and it really showed that later in the game it really kind of reared its head even more, that it
Right.
was a bad pass where he had AZ Jackson
AZ,
on the
right.
run and
Yeah.
he shorted the pass and things, and Leuven played that beautiful ball into Klaus where
Hmm.
Klaus almost always brings that down to his feet. He wasn't able to
Right.
bring it to his feet.
Right.
Again, Klaus is still, he's still getting
He's still
back to
Klaus.
game fit. He's still Klaus. He's going to make things happen. And he did later in the game. But I think, we played a great and amazing first half.
Hmm.
And if we pressed and played that first half, like that
Right.
generally like we did that first half moving forward, I think it's a completely different. I
Oh
think
yeah.
we can play with anyone.
Absolutely.
I
I
mean, we
mean,
can play with
well,
anyone anyway, but you know what I mean.
right. Right. No, I thought we were very good that first half. And the last thing we probably need to say before we move on to LAFC, though, is we do have to talk about that goal because there's not a lot of guys that are going to head in that goal that Klaus headed in to get that result in Houston. So that way we get a tie instead of a loss. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, one of the things that I would highly recommend doing is going back and rewatching this goal from Klaus in like the 87th, 88th minute at Houston, because first off, we're a high press team, right? Almost all of our goals come from set pieces or from just transition, right? Just pure transition. Their center backs are too high and we're very quick and we're just going straight at goal. And that's not how we scored this game. And like it seems like it's kind of going under the radar unless you're like someone like us that's like, a diehard follower of just this team. And the fact that we had very good build-up play on this. Every single player except Berkey on our team touched the ball on this play. You get eventually gets to Leuven. Leuven passes it up the wing to Indy, who, by the way, we didn't even mention is playing the left back in this game, which is its whole own thing that we don't even have time to go into. He
We've got
delivers a
time. We're 15 minutes in. We got time. But I'm going to pause you. Finish the breakdown of the play, and then
okay.
there's a few things that more I want to touch on with Houston. So
Okay.
sorry to all you listeners. You're going to listen to me talk a little bit more here in Houston.
Okay. So then Indy delivers a cross back across the box, finds Ostrak wide open at the top of the box, which is just like the way it was built up and the way that it worked. So I was like, oh my God, we never score goals this way. And Ostrak takes a rip. I mean, that shot, I was like, at first, I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like, it's going to take an exceptional Berkey level save to save this. And then, of course, Clark does that, gets a hand on it. But what he doesn't do is he knocks it back into play. He doesn't knock it over the goal. It was impossible. He wouldn't have been able to bring it in, but he allows a rebound to happen. And maybe that was the only way it could have been saved, right? He did what he could. He stopped the first attempt, stopped a definite goal. And then it just coming out and it goes straight to Klaus's head. And I think that is also all on Klaus because you can watch, if you watch Klaus come up, Indy runs up this way. And as he delivers that cross, Klaus kind of comes in over the cross because he knows, okay, when they shoot back across that goal, if there's a rebound, it's coming right here. Like he's positioning himself to be that poacher. But as that rebound comes, it just kind of like falls on his head. And Klaus still, for as athletic and as amazingly talented as he is, he makes these ridiculously hard plays look like accident every single time. But he just like nods it in and falls over and then gets up and goes back to a trademark horrible slide to celebrate.
So
So
here's what I'm going to point out on this play. Two things, right? Um, Klaus, amazing at
mm-hmm.
just being in the right spot, reading the ball. I love watching when he, backs up and the guys just run into him and he's just standing there like, oh,
Right.
I didn't know that was
Oh,
going to happen.
right. Right. I had
But he
no
puts his
idea
head
you
on the
fall over.
ball. What I really want to highlight, not only the poaching, is
Mhm.
why the hell is Klaus still sliding after goals?
I
That
know.
was
They're
the
so
ugliest
bad.
slide I've.
They're
So
so bad.
for any of you who did not watch the Houston game, I'm going to do a quick rundown of how this slide went. So if you've ever seen a 2.5-year-old toddler get really, really excited and start trucking across your living room, and they look like they are on a mission. Now imagine that toddler trips and you think they're going to land on their knees, but they don't because they're not coordinated and they kind of tumble, end up on their ass, and just slide on their ass for a second. That was Klaus's after goal slide.
I don't think I could have put that any more eloquently than you did, or accurately either. So kudos to you for that.
There's a couple of things I want to highlight about the game as well that we talked about. So I highlighted about Celio really being a great change of pace player. Ostrak has been another one of those, and we've talked about this before.
Every time, yeah.
Every time he comes in late in a game, he changes the pace of play, and I love him for it. He gets after it. He goes and he's in the right spots. For whatever reason, when he started, I just don't feel like he has it. But when he comes in off the bench, he is a completely different player.
Absolutely.
The other thing I want to highlight is Indiana Vassilev. And you and I have had a lot of offline conversations about who our best 11 are, who do we think needs to start. And Indy comes up all the time. And I'm very much a proponent of Indy. And one of the biggest things that I always highlight about Indy is his left foot. If you have a free kick and you have Leuven and Indy both standing out there, you can't cheat to as much to steal Leuven's right foot, because you have to account for Indy's left foot, and he's got a rocket on his left foot. But what this game, and I've talked, he's great skills. This is a guy who's realistically his best position is a central attacking midfield or left attacking midfield kind of play. Comes in, Marcanic's hurt, not playing well, and is essentially playing a left back role, and still finds doesn't get beat defensively, and then finds a way to make a play offensively, which is directly led to the goal, because he's the one who there was a beautiful ball, but then beats the defender, hits that ball perfectly to Ostrak, who again, we just highlighted, difference maker, running hard into the box in the right spot, puts that shot on. And so I think there were some good subs there. I would have loved to have seen them maybe 5-10 minutes sooner and have a little bit more time with the fresh legs on the field to push that ball. But I'm not upset with who Carnell subbed in.
It's timing.
I just wish he would have just done it a split second sooner.
It's always timing. Yeah. Yeah. I think I even put in the notes, I was like, will I ever not complain about the subs? And I mean, I'm not going to for the next game, but that's what I wrote that night. The other thing about Indy coming in as a left back is, like, he's apparently never played left back before. He said in the post game presser. I think I heard that BC got a little testy and defensive about calling his position a left back when he came in. I think he was like, no, it's clearly more of a left wing back role or something to that effect. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But then just like hearing Indy like talk about how he was playing it and how he basically had no idea what his defensive responsibilities were because he's never played that position and was just kind of like making it up. And I'm like, yeah, but I have a feeling your soccer IQ is high enough that we can put you anywhere and you have a rough idea of what you should be doing at pretty much any point.
Yes. There's a reason that he was in the Aston Villa system.
Villa. It's an English team. Villa. Nope. It's not a Spanish word. It's Aston Villa.
Let me remind you that I am a La Liga fan before a Premier League fan. So it'll be Aston Villa. I'm going to...
I'm just gonna say no. You just okay. You're coming over. We're gonna watch some Premier League. We've got tons of words and names you have to learn how to pronounce correctly.
All I care about is Newcastle, although I like Newcastle better before they're owned by the oil giants. More importantly, so Indy can play anywhere. He's a brilliant player. He's great on the ball. He's great defensively. Right. There's nothing. The fact that he has lost playing time to AZ Jackson is not because of Indiana Vassilev. No. It's because AZ Jackson has absolutely shown out. And the one thing that AZ Jackson does better than most anyone else who's played in that top center attacking midfield position is the way that he presses. And that's not throwing anything at Indy. Indy does a phenomenal job, but it is not the same.
That's not what I would have said was his best attribute, what he's done better, but I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I would have argued that his best attribute in that role is that when he gets the ball he is the fastest upfield, not just because I don't know who's faster, him or Adeniran. I know they're both very, very fast. I would love to see them like run 40s against each other. But I think it's just his pace at goal. And whenever he has the ball and he's running, he's always pulling people out of position because they're scared that he's going to just run past them. and it opens up a lot of space for other players. And I think that is what's going to unlock that next level for AZ. And you can already see it more as the season's gone on, but like being able to get that extra pass in to someone that's open is going to really unlock his ability. Like he's never going to be, I think, that top goal scorer, but I think he could be a very high assist leader.
Well, and you see it when he takes chances from top of the 18. There's not enough pace. He doesn't have the cannon of a Leuven or an Indy, but he does, like you said, pull people out of position. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of great assist opportunities. Yeah. But getting back to Indy deserves to be on the field, and we're going to talk more about it here in a minute when we get into LAFC, but Indy deserves to be on the field. The guy can play, and realistically, with that left foot, he's our strongest guy. And I've said it offline. I don't know how much I've said it online. I still think our best option as more or less a left midfielder when it comes playoff time. The reason that we don't see that, the reason that we potentially don't see that is because he can literally come in and sub in wherever we need him and fill a hole and a need. Right. But I don't know that when you get to playoff time, you want your best players, period, on the field. And I think when we get to playoff time, you see him more in that role. Another person that we going to highlight here a little bit, Nerwinski started against Houston. And I think I messaged you right after I saw it was Nerwinski. And I'm like, we're saving Watts to run with Boanga. So I'm going to use this as my transition here into...
No. Hold that thought.
Now I'm in trouble.
No. Hold that thought. Because I do have to say, I think the reason... So for those of you listening on Spotify, I just got very casually flipped off for interrupting what I'm sure was a beautiful segue in process. But I do
killing my transition game.
Right. You fanboy for Celio. I've got a fanboy for Stroud here. Okay. Because I do think, and I know I've made this argument to you offline, and I just have to get it out there, that I think that it's very tactical that we have Stroud start a lot of these games. And I think it's specifically, and maybe not against LAFC, because we didn't start him against LAFC, and that could have been rotation. That could have been because you want to see what you consider your best 11, against the top level. It's an argument that could be had. I don't know. But I do think that he's out there because it's not about his offensive abilities or his role in the attack. I think anything you get out of there is bonus. I do think it is just all about that high level press that he's doing for 60 minutes, annoying the hell out of the back line, wearing them down. And then you take him off and you bring a guy like Indy, a guy like Thor, and someone who's way more technically skilled than he is. And suddenly you've got fresh legs with someone who can really do something with the ball against some really tired defenders. So I do think that's a tactical move by BC. Anyway,
that makes amazing sense if you sub them in at the 60th minute. But
subs are
not that Bradley Carnell's wife is probably complaining, but he seems to just wait just a little too long to pull the trigger.
Okay, I'm gonna take a drink and we're just gonna talk about LAFC now.
So speaking of LAFC, Stroud did come on late in that game.
He did,
and I think it highlighted his biggest problem is, and he did come on and he was playing on the right, but he doesn't have the awareness on the ball. And you saw it when that steal and that giveaway. And I'm not trying, again, I think Stroud, like you said, has a very strong purpose and a very strong role on this team. And so I'm not trying to take I've harped on Stroud a lot. I've harped on you for being a quote unquote Stroud lover, to the point where you muted our text conversation after the game at Houston, as I was throwing shade.
You should know, like, we talk like every day, right? For like 13, 14 years. And Tyler was being such a little shit that I muted the conversation and went to bed, which by the way, is like a Stroud level move. I just want to say that. Congratulations. You perfectly emulated Stroud in that moment.
You should have loved, and I think the one thing, so you love Stroud, I love Celio. And I think that the thing that both of them bring to the table is that tenacity, and that just they pick at the other team, and they try to get in their heads. And I love every minute of it. And that's my favorite thing about Stroud. I love the fact that the guy he runs his ass off every time he's on the field. He never stops moving. So Stroud, if you ever listen to our podcast and you hear me hating on you, it's not that I hate on you. I'm going to point out flaws. It's part of what I'm supposed to do here. I'd like to say it's my job, but they don't pay me for this.
I pay to talk bad about your ability. Let's be clear about this.
I John pays a lot because he has to listen to me just give him shit religiously. Although
That's
you
right.
also don't hesitate to give me shit if you think Celio is quote unquote underperformed or has lacking of chemistry.
And to be fair, I don't think that's happened very much. In your defense, I don't think that's been necessary. But anyway, LAFC. Let's talk about LAFC.
Oh yeah, so back to Houston, we rested Watts.
Yes.
We started Nerwinski, and I was messaging you right away. This was the transition I was trying to make prior to your interruption. And so what happened is that we brought in, we rested him, and I was like, there is no way we are not resting Watts right now to bring him in and hold up against Bouanga. First of all, one of the most fun names to say in MLS is Bouanga. So like the guy has that going for him. Watching him live, I think he's a little bitch. Neither here nor there. I mean, I watched him flail and flop on the field a couple of times right in front of me. So
they got a lot of calls last night. That we got a
let's
lot of
pause
Nico
and bring
level calls.
let's hear it the later in the game. Here later in a few minutes, we'll get into the real reffing issues. But the lineup that we put out, I think, is potentially our strongest lineup with one exception. Who do you think that if I was going to pull one person out, who I would pull out and who I would put in their place? And this is going to surprise you because I've hated on this person a lot off and on.
Ooh, I'm trying to like think through the lineup because I think we did first off.
So we
came
had
out
let me run through the
diamond.
lineup for those who didn't know.
No,
So
I
we
know
started
I've got the lineup in my
Berkey's our
head.
goalie. If you didn't know,
Fuck off.
Nielsen and Parker.
We didn't do the No Bleep podcast warning today, but God, I hope you guys already know that this is a No Bleep podcast. I think it honestly would have been probably AZ for Stroud.
No,
or Sam.
I would have started Giochini over Big Sam.
Oh yeah. So I'm not surprised by Sam. I think Sam was the right play for this game because I think it was about speed and the fact that, and granted, Aaron Long didn't end up starting for LAFC, which apparently him and Vela, who are both old and slow, not starting, like they both clearly lost a step compared to where they were just like 2 years ago. Them not starting, even though they've been underperforming, you could argue, is heavily rotated per, the big wigs at MLS media, whatever. Looking at you, Andrew Weeby. Anyway, I think that was all about running at the back line. And I don't think we did a good job of trying to do that. He disappeared, again this game. And that maybe that's not on him. Maybe that's because we're not finding him when we should be. But
with the lineup that we played, and I think that we had an amazing lineup. With the lineup that we played, we are not built to just send Sam running deep the whole game. Now, if we put Stroud and we have some other players in there, I think we're much more heavily geared and built towards that counterattack. And we showed that we can still counterattack quickly and play well. I mean, there was the amazing, and I know we have it highlighted later, but I'm going to talk about it now because it fits. Berkey had an amazing save. There was a rebound on a corner kick. Chiellini's old ass apparently decided he wanted to pretend like he was 15 again and bicycle kick and put a solid shot on goal.
It was a great shot.
Too bad Berkey's better and better looking, by the way. Chiellini, you balding. Never mind. I won't say it. I was going to say an F-bomb there. But Berkey is, yeah, bald. I was going to say balding fuck.
Oh, well, yeah, because I haven't dropped any F-bombs.
As a noun.
So,
yeah. I was going to use it as a noun. It's such a versatile word. Right. Realistically, it shouldn't be a curse word at all, but that's another story for another day. So Chiellini puts this kick on there and I mean, just bicycles it in. And Berkey, just the beautiful man that he is, makes a beautiful save, knocks it out. Klaus gets it, takes it up, and just plays it a beautiful ball to Big Sam. That was one of the few times I really felt like we were taking advantage of Big Sam's skill set.
Right.
Because he is very much a transitional player. And you can see, and this is where I feel like Big Sam is not necessarily needs to be starting or start and sub out much sooner than he does. His game is very much a transition game, but he does not press very well. He is not a
Yeah.
strong press player. He is your traditional, I'm going to sit up here and wait for so I can get mine kind of striker. And you
Right.
saw it on that goal. All he thought about, he had no idea that AZ Jackson was trucking down the field.
Yeah.
Klaus was trucking down the field.
Right.
They
He
were
had
not
Klaus
far
wide
behind
open.
him.
Yeah. He had a
All he
perfect
had to
opportunity for a
do
cross.
was to cut the ball back, running full, like all because the defender's expecting you to go to goal.
Mhm.
Cut it back and hit it across, and we have two guys running in that can potentially put the ball in the net.
Right.
And instead, he tries to kick it around the guy and kicks it into the side netting. And I think that's Big Sam's biggest thing is he gets into the box, he gets the ball, and all he thinks about is scoring. And at times, that's great.
Are you talking about the time when he came up on the left or the time when he came up on the right? Because there were two opportunities for him. I
Second
like,
half after the bicycle kick.
so I think that was the time he
And
came up
Klaus
on the
hit the big
left.
long ball. And
Right.
he came up on the left.
I wasn't as worried about that one. The one on the right really upset me earlier in the first half. And Nico had a play very similar where they both are coming up and they've got, runners in, they're pulling all the defenders to them along the wing, and all they have to do is lay not even a great cross, just a cross in. And like it's gonna, Klaus and AZ are both really good and really fast and can adjust their pace to meet the cross. Like they're gonna adapt to it. Um, and yet they both had eyes for goal themselves. I did not have as much of an issue with Sam coming up on the left because he scored some absolute bangers from that left side, and two of them got called back, and so I know they don't count. But like those, he's shown that he can make that specific shot.
But not the shot he took.
Well,
so my
fair.
issue with it was once he hit it too far, instead of taking that shot because he had no angle, that's where you cut it back. So I'm not saying he cuts it back before that touch, but he ended up taking too heavy of a touch and he knew it.
Right.
But he's fast enough to recover, but cut the ball back, man. Like you have no angle. And that was my complaint with the play.
Right.
Klaus and AZ, if you watch the replay, were not far behind. By the time he took the shot, they were at the top of the box. If you cut that back, you've got guys right there. And the defender played it perfectly. He was playing him to rip a shot and cut off his angle to goal. So his only angle was into the side netting. And so I think we don't, getting back to the formation and who you start, I think Gioacchini, for all the hate that I've given him for flopping, diving, getting some embellishing calls.
Most of that was offline, by the way.
That's fine.
Those of you who are like, he's never done this. It's offline for 6 months.
It's happened.
Yeah, trust us.
I'm owning up to my own faults. I'm a dumbass and I'm a piece of shit. Nico, come on here and talk to us. We'll hash it out online, and we let the world see what me apologize and kiss your ass. Not literally, figuratively kiss your ass. Unless
I'm just not going to comment
never
on
mind.
that. No, we're just going to keep going.
So, but Gioacchini plays much better with Klaus. They play off each other better, and I think they press better together.
Right.
I still wonder how much that shoulder injury is affecting him, and if that's part of it too, is if he's still not ready, if they don't want to push it too far with that.
Yeah, I mean, I had that thought too, but you watch him, he seems fine. He's not listed on the injury reports ever.
But how many times, okay, for any of you who played sports in high school, how many times did you say, look fine until you took a hit or took a shot or whatever, and you flared up that injury, especially with playoffs coming?
Let me give you an alternative idea. Okay. So Big Sam was not available for Houston, which is something that we did not talk about Houston, but Big Sam was not available because of his red cards in LA, which we talked a lot about last week. So you kind of have to expect that you're going to play Big Sam a lot. You've got 3 games in 8 days. He couldn't play in the last one, so he's the freshest guy for this one, right? So I expected Sam to start just because he's the freshest striker. And if the choice is Klaus or Nico against your, the biggest game of the year of the regular season to this point, you have to start Klaus because he's Jow mother effing Klaus.
So, but if you remember, if we go back in the podcast, I'd rewind, but I don't know how. I said, if I was starting my best 11, who would I change? And if I was starting
Rewind
my
button.
best 11 rewind button, it's Giochini instead of Big Sam.
Sure, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
I'm
That's
not
fair.
arguing with who we did start. I'm saying
Right.
if we were to put our best 11 on the field, I
Mhm.
think what we saw was a preview, but I think you put Giochini in for Big Sam.
My thing about this, and it's not really so much about, I guess it's about this game because we failed about doing this. I thought the only time Big Sam and Klaus have looked really good together was that first half against LA Galaxy. Every other time we've seen them together, early season or late season, I felt they struggled. If not struggled, they're just not quite on the same page. Not like him and Nico usually are.
Yes.
But my other thought is with Sam, a lot of the time, we do try those long, deep passes like the one that Klaus sprung him for. And I kind of wonder if we could maybe try more of like a shorter to medium through ball, like maybe from like the midfield line, if especially if their center backs are coming like a little bit higher, and then you can just spring them through that way. That's something that we don't seem to try that much, but every time we've done it, it's worked. But we always seem to be trying to spring them from like our 18-yard box, and that gives the opposing center backs tons of time to close it down and disrupt it. I don't know.
Do you know
What are your
who'd be
thoughts?
really I agree. Do you know who'd be really good from our team at just hitting a beautiful through ball from the midfield? Eddie Leuven.
He would be. He would be just
And I
perfect
don't
for it.
think we talked about it as much on Houston as we should have, but in Houston, we talked about it last week that he just looked a half step
Mhm.
off, right?
Yeah.
In the game, or not in Houston, but in LA.
In
He looked
LA,
about a half
right.
step off in LA. In Houston, he started to look like he got his form back.
I agree.
If you,
Yeah.
for any of you who watched the LAFC game, a couple of our best chances
Mhm.
was Eddie Leuven making it happen. I mean, stepping up in the biggest game arguably the biggest game of our young club's history.
Right.
Hopefully there's even more bigger games to come. And so there was so much there. And I think Leuven played great. I mean, he played that beautiful ball, like we said, to Klaus in
Mhm.
Houston. Last night, he was on fire,
He
playing
was.
great. And
I
I think
still
he's,
hate the diamond though. I want that on the record. I freaking hate the diamond. And I don't disagree with it from a tactical perspective. I disagree with it from our players' perspective. But Leuven, they don't call him Big Game Eddie for nothing. So, and by they, I mean me. So
yeah. Well, he's got a lot of big things, as I believe a lot of people were staring at him for last night
dude's
after the
pretty
game.
jacked for a soccer player.
Yes.
Like
So for those of you
muscular.
who aren't aware, hop onto our Instagram, and I have some pictures of him shirtless, posing behind me and my wife. My wife was Lindsay. If you ever listen to
Racing?
my
Question mark?
podcasts, I'm ready for this. She was after the game, so he actually pulled her over and signed her shirt, like so he could sign her shirt after he signed my hat, and he took a picture with us. Lindsay was like, I should have given him my bra because then I could still wear my jersey. And I'm like, you were going to take off your bra for Eddie Leuven? And she's like, well, the only other player I'd do it for is Berkey. So, I mean, you've got that going for you. Luckily,
It's true.
it tells you how much my wife supports me here. She has not yet to listen to a single podcast. So I think I'm in the clear for calling her out on that one.
I don't think my wife has listened to a podcast either, but she does. Whenever I'm telling her about like some of the things we're working on or like the ideas we've had, I do get a lot of, oh, that's great, honey, responses. So, I've got that going for me, which is nice.
It's one of those, hey, you know what? It's good for you. I'm glad
Right.
you're doing
Yeah,
it.
right. That's great. You and your friends go talk about sports and drink beer. That's kind of a trap conversation.
You're you're doing some wonderful things, sweetheart. I believe in you and I support you. I'm going to go to bed while you record these late at night.
This is going to be the first one they watch, and we're like, there will never be another episode because they will revoke our privileges for this.
Yeah,
That's a
so for
lie.
anybody who's watching, if we don't have any more episodes after this, and we are not to be heard from, please let it be known. We know who probably the suspects are, and we'll go from
Oh,
there.
yeah. Okay, let's get back to some of our organized content, though. So ever
Who
since
wants to be
Leagues Cup, and
organized?
even right, and even before Leagues Cup, we have to talk about it again. These freaking handballs. I felt like there were several of them last night, and I supposedly reading the comments online on Reddit, which I do not recommend for most things in life. But having been at the game, neither of us really, we didn't get to see replays. They weren't showing replays of them in the field.
This is how much of a nerd I am. We got back last night from the game. Lindsay crashed.
You
I
watched
actually watched replays of both handballs, and I'll let you know my thoughts in a minute. But go ahead and continue.
Well, so popular consensus on the interwebs is that the refs did get it right, although it is again inconsistent with how they've been called against us previously, which is the whole issue, is the consistency. That's all we're asking for, is consistency. And then best comment that I've read online in a little while was, well, the refs are calling them consistent. If it's a St. Louis City player that touches the ball with their arm, it's a penalty. If it's not a St. Louis player, it's not a penalty. And I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I get it.
So this is my complaint. We had a penalty called against Marcanic, who was going to the ground. His hand was like, if I'm trying to, let's see if I do it better this way. His hand's
just go
like
ahead and
here,
fall out
and
of your chair so we can see it. Yeah, just fall over.
just completely go out. Just fall out.
I mean, Nielsen
smash your face. Yeah, Nielsen's we need to talk about Nielsen.
We got to talk about Nielsen.
But again, barely hits his hand. Big Sam turns like this, trying to get away from it. His hand's right here. I mean, we are talking what, 6, 8 inches out, hits his hand. He gets a fucking yellow card.
Right.
Last night, both of the handballs, one that was called as a penalty kick and then reversed, the second one was not even called.
Right.
They blew, if they're calling it consistently for what we've been penalized for.
Right.
And then again, we go back to the Kansas City game where there was another handball that was not called, which was blatant, and that one should have been. That was neither here nor there. That one should have been.
At Dallas, and I think at San Jose. Not at Dallas, but against Dallas at St. Louis. But continue. It's just, it keeps happening.
But again, the issue here is not that they're not calling them, but that the times that they do are against us every time, and they're not reviewed or reversed. Right. Or the one with Big Sam, they go back and give him a fucking yellow card.
Right.
When it was clearly unintentional. It wasn't like it was a blatant thing. He was turning, it hit his hand as he was turning away. Right. We're going to give that a yellow card. But last night, the second one, we're not even going to call it as a handball.
Absolutely. Right. Well, and then you've got people saying that for that one for Big Sam, that it's not a natural position. I'm like, okay, have you ever run? What are your arms doing when you're running? Right. They're perfectly right here. He's coming up on it. He sees the kick. He knows that he's blocking Berkey's view. So he's trying to, get out of the way and avoid it with his, front arm. And his back arm is just where it was while he was running. And it wasn't even, like you said, it was right here against his chest. The only reason why it was even looked to be away from his chest is the fact that he turned his chest. Right. But even then it was, I'm going to turn so you can see it. It was like this. It was not like, and I mean, maybe the fingers are technically making the body bigger.
There was a gap there. So when he turned, it was there was a gap, but it was not sticking out they make it out to be. And again,
still a natural
the
position.
Biggest issue with MLS refereeing is the inconsistency. I'm not pissed about you calling this a handball or you calling that handball. If it was the same, or at least somewhat the same, if there was, because you're always going to get calls that are going to vary just a little bit based on how a certain ref interprets it. But the fact that it keeps happening, and that from game to game it changes, and from half to half it changes, and it's where's the consistency? The one that I do want to highlight, and watching it live, I legitimately thought Marcanic got taken out. Marcanic they did not make contact with Marcanic. He did try to dodge their feet because they slid in and lost his footing. This is one of those, as he gets older, he's going to make sure he drags that foot and makes contact and then goes down and draws that penalty. But because he went over the legs and made sure to avoid them and then lost his footing because of it, he went down. They're not going to call that. And that's nothing against Marcanic. And again, the ref made the right call in that situation. but I hope that Marcanic learns from that. The other big thing, as long as while we're on officiating, let's just get into it.
Okay, let's
Chiellini
go
is
for it.
the biggest flopper in the fucking league.
I know, and I
You want to
thought that was
know
going to be
somebody?
Nico. I thought that was going to be Nico, and then I watched last night's game.
Did you watch? So I sent you a timestamp of the LAFC game from Saturday. Did you watch that?
No, because
I'm
I'm a
gonna.
bad friend.
Well, obviously you're a bad friend. We knew that ahead of time. But more importantly, so for those of you who don't know, down in the corner, and I'm actually pulling up the timestamp now that I sent them.
Like 87th, 88th minute. It's about the same time
It
Klaus was
was it
scoring
was
his
like the
goal.
96th minute, and their
No,
game
even
was
later.
later. It was an extra time. And I apologize, gotta skim through a lot of stuff because we were talking about going to the game together. But and so, but it was absolutely like he was there, the guy was behind him. Chiellini legitimately just throws his legs out and just flops on the ground, and they called a foul.
Right.
Did Chiellini get fined? Was there
No.
anything done about it?
Well,
No.
okay. And he's not the only player getting that kind of treatment, though. Like, I love the Barca guys at FC Messi,
Did you just
right?
say Barca?
Yeah. What? Barca? I mean, the city is pronounced Barcelona. I don't know. Maybe I need to watch more of La
Correct.
Liga.
It's Barcelona, but if you shorten it, it's Barca.
Yeah.
Just letting you know. Well,
Whatever.
you're correcting me on Austin Villa.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just twitched. Anyway, like Busquets is getting like a lot of calls. And I mean, I'm cool with them protecting the hell out of Messi, right? Like this is fucking Lionel Messi, right? Sure. But like Busquets does not need to be like basically being able to like tell the ref that's the wrong call and like making them change it or just getting all kinds of stupid crap like in his favor. And I don't know, it just when you already have this perception that you're like that the league is trying to support some teams and like for a narrative and a storyline, like it's just not a good look. And that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about the whole league. We're not here to talk about Miami.
I mean, let's
But
talk about Miami for a minute. The
oh
fact that the
God,
Barca guys are getting what they want. Here's a perfect example of Barcelona and for
yes, I don't
Messi
believe
just
you.
ruining things in US. You sent me a screenshot of the shittiest looking pizza I've ever seen in my life. But
That's
because Messi posted a picture of it, the place had a line
you
wrapping
are
around
right.
the block.
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, did you see the
Absolutely
Atlanta
the
media
the
team?
shittiest looking pizza.
Well,
I
apparently
would
it's
not touch that
very
with a 10-foot pole.
so apparently it's very that's how Argentinian pizza kind of is. I don't know. That's just what I've heard. But even like,
I'm
I don't
so
know.
sorry for Argentinians.
Yeah, there was on Extra Time last week after that was posted. One of the contributors is Argentinian, and he did say he goes, I'm not the person to ask about this because I don't like Argentinian pizza, but even by Argentinian pizza standards, it looked bad? Question mark. I don't know. But right after LA beat Miami, the the Atlanta social media team reposted Messi's picture, but they photoshopped it so that the tomatoes made an L. And I don't know if you saw that, but that's some of the best like content I've seen in a while, other than that own goals, goal scoring thing I posted the other day.
I am
Um,
trying to find this, Mark. Was it, did I send it to just you? Because I didn't see it in the group chat that you and I have
I
with
don't know.
another friend.
I'll
Tyler
find it. I
Hardy,
know you
if you're
sent it to me.
actually listening, shout out to you. We do have a group chat that that we talk to him as well. I don't see it. It's an extra time. If you guys have MLS season pass on Apple, I
This is not an ad. Want to
this
be
is
clear.
not
That
an
is not an
ad.
ad. We are not being
I'm not
paid for
telling you to go
that.
spend money. But if you want to see the like worst flop of the one of the worst flops of the year, go to that, watch the extra time. It's down in the corner. LA Galaxy's pushing up the right side.
Mm-hmm.
It's down in that corner. Chiellini has one of their players behind him and just literally just throws his legs up in the air like he got kicked and just dives on the ball.
Right. Well, so Chiellini, he's savvy. He's a vet. He's been around for a while. He's played
The guy,
at some high levels.
he is. He's a top level Italian league player. He's been around. He's at the end of his career, which is how Galaxy got him.
Right.
But
Let's
I
talk of
just go ahead. I just have, and for all intents and purposes,
I can't believe you
I
got that phrase
enjoy.
right.
You know
Sorry,
what?
continue.
Would you like to blow me after this? So, for all intents and purposes, I have this big piece with Chiellini that there's parts of his game that I absolutely love watching. And then there's other times that I literally want to come through the screen and punch him. Lindsay pulled me back at one point. She was like, "You need to calm down." So I splurged, got a good deal, got ended up first row, right off the field. And
Hey,
I
did
don't
you
remember
hear
if
that
it was
you had tickets in the
Chiellini.
first row?
Yeah. I don't know if it's Chiellini or Boanga, but I called one of I essentially said something to the extent of, "You ballerina motherfucker, stop diving." And
Mm.
my wife was like, "You need to calm down."
Yes, I think that's probably
They
accurate,
were
but
also about 10 feet from me, so I knew they could hear me.
that's fine. It's not soccer if you're not heckling the other team. But let's talk about a different big veteran center back that fell a lot last night. Joachim Nielsen. And what's different about the way he fell? Tell the crowd, tell the listeners
The,
what's
the
different
way
about the way
that
he fell.
Nielsen fell is that he got absolutely clobbered every time this man went down. If we are talking, you want to know what my only complaint with Nielsen right now is?
You're scared he's going to get
The
hurt going
guy
all
is
out.
sacrificing his body, and I do not want him to re-injure his knee. But this man understands positioning. He understands what other teams are trying to do. He has completely turned Tim Parker when the two, now that you can see it, especially if you watched the game last night. Tim Parker's a more confident center back, knowing that he has Nielsen right there with him.
Absolutely.
He has made Berkey, you can see the confidence in Berkey when they're pushing against Nielsen. He knows. It's almost like they are in sync on which side Nielsen is going to push the defend the player. Nielsen is the center back we have been wanting and we hoped that he would be.
Right.
And the fact that he is showing this after 7-8 games, if that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm including City 2 games at that, with that count,
right.
he is
He's
everything
really
he was
rounding into
billed to
form.
be. And he's only getting better every match. We're talking about somebody who can potentially anchor our defense through the playoffs, and he's getting better. God bless him.
Yeah.
Nielsen, listen here, because I know you're probably listening as well, as all the City players probably listen to our podcast.
Of course.
Nielsen needs to be careful and don't injure your knee. We clinched our playoff spot last night. As you said at the beginning of the podcast, we got 2 ties. Kind of felt like 2 wins. Houston has not lost a game since August?
July or something like that.
July.
Yeah. A home game and since July at least.
We went to Houston and put up a draw. We had the defending champs here in town, and we should have had a couple of penalties or potential, and we had better scoring chances and outplayed them. Still draw, but those are 2 solid draws, 2 points well earned, and that puts us at a clinch spot. We are the first team in the West. Our wonderful St. Louis City expansion team that everyone, every expert, every analyst picked to finish last in the entire MLS. Who's the first team in the Western Conference to clinch a playoff spot, John?
St. Louis City SC. Well, those same analysts are also the ones that will tell you that Houston played us off the field in a draw, and that a draw against LAFC is really a win for LAFC, even though it denies them 2 points to catch us. So, and they're the reigning MVP or defending champs, and they made it to the Champions League finals. But yeah, whatever. The other things about Nielsen though is he's obviously got the intellect part of the game down right. He plays very smart, but he combines that with that same stuff that we've always said about Indy, and the fact that when Indy's like Indy turns it on when he has to, and he knows this is the moment I've got to be going all out, and Nielsen definitely does that too, and it definitely put him in some compromising positions for his health last night. I swear to God, I saw that man's head bounce off the grass like 3 times in the game and then all night in my nightmares because like I thought for sure that he gave himself a concussion each time. Um, and I really like playing that way is something that I like 100% can respect. Like no matter what, like and in soccer gets a bad rap because guys don't really play that way, right? But
Chiellini
Nielsen does,
belonga.
right?
Yeah.
Right. But the other thing that I really liked about Nielsen's play last night, so you mentioned it's been 7 or 8 games now. I think we're also really beginning to see that chemistry build up, like you alluded to with Berkey, but and also with Parker, and not only in the way that it's affecting Parker and Berkey's play, but the fact that like when you watch Nielsen, right, there was a very specific sequence that I don't remember when exactly it was, but you could see Nielsen started to step up, because we played kind of a high back line too, right? Kind of, where they're like basically like in the opposing half,
Well,
but
it's a part of the high press,
right,
right? You want to
right,
condense. For those of you who aren't aware,
right.
when
Well,
you're playing a high
I was
press
being
like this,
sarcastic about the kind of is what I'm getting at.
but the concept is you always want your entire team in 1/3 of the
Right,
field.
right,
You always want to be, so if you're in the front third, the middle third, the back
hmm,
third, you want your whole team right
right,
there. And the
right,
entire team presses up together. So
right.
there are, I know,
No,
some non-soccer fans out there, so I want to make sure they understand.
that's fine. Yeah, because yeah, I used the word kind of when I was like, there's no kind of about it, is what I was getting at. But either way,
You're good. I just don't know if you understand what I'm just kidding, John. Please don't shoot
I'm
me
gonna
here.
I'm gonna stab you. I swear to God, if you die by getting stabbed tonight, this like is gonna be like the worst thing that ever happened to me.
There
But
is somebody on the loose who escaped Mercy South tonight in St. Louis. So, or
mm,
last night, sorry, at 3 a.m. So who knows? He's
good to
not
know.
that far from us.
No,
He's on a manhunt going on.
good to know. Anyway, I have this high back line. You see Nielsen and Parker both step up. And earlier in the season, that was a play where we get burned, right? Because both center backs stepped up. But Nielsen takes that first step, sees Parker stepping up, and Parker loves to play as a forward center back. Like that is Parker's game, right? And Nielsen immediately undoes his step, like just immediately turns and starts trying to play defensively farther back. And then, of course, that ball comes to, whoever was trying to run past him. But it was perfect anticipation of the play. Like he knew immediately and understood what Parker was doing and what that was going to leave in our defense and adapted and adjusted to prevent that play. And that's what we've been missing all year. And when Lutz said at the beginning of the season, or I guess last year, that Joakim Nielsen could be like the best center back in the league, defender of the year in MLS. Like a lot of people were kind of like, well, he's good. He's a Swedish team national player. He plays in the Bundesliga, but they were like, yeah, okay, sure. And ever since he's been in, he's been lights out. Apart from like 3 sequences against Johnny Russell in Kansas City.
But that was one of his, if not his first start. If it wasn't his
Yeah,
first, it was his second start.
right.
What I would love to highlight here with Nielsen is Marcanic. Marcanic came
Oh yeah.
over
Mm-hmm.
and came over roughly the same time Nielsen was coming
Mm-hmm.
back, which allowed the two of them to essentially step up into solidifying the left side of our
Right.
defense as a unit
Yeah.
together. And the two of them have played so well together. And there was something else, and I was talking to Lindsay again. So those you don't know, Lindsay's my wife. I've said it like 8 times tonight, so sorry. But before the game last night, we were watching warm-ups.
Mm-hmm.
The entire LAFC team is like business. We're going to get after it. We're doing this. We're doing that. Whatever,
Mm-hmm.
including their subs and the people who weren't starting. If you watch the St. Louis City time, the St. Louis City side, the entire team was laughing. They were poking
Mm-hmm.
fun at each other. They're doing their warm up. They're going through the drills. They're taking the drills seriously,
Right.
but not so seriously that it's like, hey, we're going to lose this. And there's something incredibly poetic and special. It's just even about the contrasting styles
Mm-hmm.
on the field to watch St. Louis City and the way that they played and the way that they warmed up, and they were very much enjoying being on the field and just warming
Mm-hmm.
up and kicking the ball around. Lindsay described them, so I'm stealing her words, but she said they just look like a group of middle school boys laughing and playing soccer and kicking the ball around.
Oh
And it
yeah.
made I mean, it's so nice to see. And so I think that's huge. Um, we've spent a lot of time at LFC. So the biggest thing, again, we tied, but with that tie, we are the first team to clinch a playoff spot. And I think that's huge, absolutely massive. I would have loved to have had 3 points, but what people keep getting at, and you and I have talked about this, and I know you've put it in the show notes. They keep saying, well, if you take away the 5-0 start to St. Louis City, we're 500 soccer team.
Oh, no. They keep saying that we're an under 500 soccer team in all
My bad.
competitions. Yeah, no. If you're gonna steal my quote, get the quote right.
I wasn't stealing the quote. I'm just I was trying to set you up. So
Oh,
if you throw
sorry
me under
guys.
the
We need to
bus
work.
again,
We need
though,
to.
I may kick him out of the podcast and finish the episode myself.
Sorry guys. We need to work on our chemistry, kind of like Big Sam and Klaus. So okay. So
Dibs
this is
on
what I was.
Klaus.
That's. I'm not gonna go into that. I was gonna end on that specific topic. Um, do you want to talk about Minnesota in a little bit for the rest of the season first, though? If we
Yeah,
can, let's blow through this in like 3 minutes.
let's do it.
Okay.
So rest of the season, right? So we've got some things coming up. We go to Minnesota on Sunday. The only thing that truly makes me nervous about Minnesota on Sunday is the fact that it's our third game, Saturday, sorry. Third game in 8 days.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And also Minnesota, if you guys remember thinking back to the beginning of the season, which was so effing long ago, they handed us our first loss. And they did that by playing that low block that we still struggle with. And that was wonderful. I might have to clip that and make that into a reel right there. So they gave us our first loss by playing that low block. And I'm hoping that they don't do that as much this game because it's going to be a home game for them. But they've also been very bad at home. Like I think they've only won like 3 times at home. So like we could beat them. And they just got blown out last night. Or did they get blown out? Or are they the ones who they gave up the 2-goal lead. They were up 3-1 on LA Galaxy and ended up losing 4-3. So like this is a team that's reeling, if we're talking about vibes, like we just were the pre-match vibes for the warm-ups, like we're in a good spot and they're like struggling to, keep their spot in the playoffs. So I'm feeling good about us here. I just want to win. I just want to win.
So they're another Minnesota team, a lot like the Twins, that are sponsored by Target.
Yep, Target.
And
yes,
I have my only concern with this game is that they play the low block and try to do a quick counterattack to beat us.
Right.
The flip. Ooh, there's the stuff. But the flip side of that, LAFC is, in my mind, the best counterattacking team outside of Miami.
Well, I mean, Red Bulls, Philly, but yeah, those 4.
But if you go back and watch their games, almost all of LAFC's goals come on fast break counterattacks where they've got Bouanga and Vela, those guys running out in front of people. And for all the hate that I gave Bouanga about being a little bitch and diving, he is fast as hell.
Fast.
And quick shout out, Akil Watts absolutely shut this guy down. There's a great interview with Watts actually on the City Refs. City Refs got him on their podcast. So if you guys don't follow City Refs, please do. But City Refs had Akil Watts on, but the guy rested him Saturday, came in and was running, and actually a couple of times ran around him. I mean, looked good. But
I mean, I don't know.
LAFC is a great counterattacking team. Great counterattacking team, though, LAFC is.
Right.
And having our actual back 4 was paramount in how we played them. Bouanga had two chances.
But he's Denny Bouanga. He's going to do that. What I liked about what Watts did is that he made those plays hard that it would take even someone as skilled as Denny Bouanga, like just like an outrageously perfect shot to make. And that's what I think Watts did very well. I don't think he really I wouldn't describe it as perfectly shutting him down. I would describe it as he played the way that you have to play against a guy that good, because you have to give up something, and he only gave up that which would be almost impossible to score on.
I agree. I say shut him down. He, for Denny Bawanga,
Right. For
he
Denny
shut him
Bawanga, he
down.
shut him down.
Is
Right.
as much as you're going to be able to with a right back,
Right.
Watts absolutely did everything you could
Yeah.
have asked with Bawanga.
Right.
And but what my thing is we are a completely different team defensively on the counterattack right now.
Oh yeah, because we have
Again,
our back line.
without
But I don't know if we're going to see this back line against
I don't
Minnesota.
know who's going to be in the yeah, I was like that's my next piece is I don't know who's going to be in the lineup. And that makes me a little bit nervous because are we going to rotate a bunch of guys out because
I mean, I kind of think so. I mean, okay, I think Watts might play, and Parker has shown that he'll play at all. But I also kind of am like, hey, Parker, kind of need you in the playoffs, so I'd really not like, I'd really like to not wear you down. And Nielsen, I don't think you can play him 3 games in 8 days without risking him too much.
hear me out. How bad of a back line is it if Watts plays because he didn't play on
Right,
Saturday, so
right.
he
I think
should be
Watts
good.
plays. I think Watts plays.
Watts on the right,
Okay.
you put Yarrow on the right
Yep.
center,
Yep.
put Hebert left center, you put
Ooh.
Nelson on the left.
I've been wondering about bringing Nelson back myself, because I think his play is more similar to Marcanic, and I think if he had been playing with Nielsen at the beginning of the year, I don't know if we'd have been seeing Marcanic. Like, I don't know if we would have made that trade if Nielsen hadn't gotten hurt. Like, if you think about it, and I think Marcanic has done very well defensively, but I do think that there's a lot of times where if we had not had Nielsen playing left center back, where we might have been caught out there on that in that left back zone of the field, so to say.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. You got to imagine that in addition to that, Klaus is not going to start. Leuven is probably not going to start this game, right? And that's okay. Like, I mean, they both went to 90 twice this week already. I think AZ
I
starts. I think Blom starts.
there's two things I want to highlight with what you just said. One, Leuven's getting in the game. We saw it in
Oh, he's
the
getting in the game,
Open
but does he
Cup,
start the game?
right? So for those of you who don't know, the first game that John and I made it to together was the Union
Well,
Omaha game.
together. We simultaneously attended all the same games before that, but this is the first one we actually went to, like, together, sat next to each other.
Together.
Yes.
Yes. And at that game, we were like, this is Union Omaha. We're blowing them out. There's no way we're seeing certain players. And all of a
Right.
sudden you see Leuven come in because he had essentially pestered Carnell to the point where it's like, fine, just go play.
Right. He wasn't even supposed to be on the bench, but he pestered Carnell to get on the bench, and then was sitting there chirping in his ear to, like, put him in because he wanted to help the team. We were already up 4-0. It was honestly probably one of the worst decisions Carnell has made as a coach this year, because if, like, Leuven had gotten hurt, like, our season would have been, like, really in jeopardy. And then the funniest part
Vastly
about
different,
that,
potentially.
vastly different. The funniest part about it is, like, Leuven, like, knows he is just, like, miles ahead of the Union Omaha guys is, and he's just trying to, like, free other guys on the team, and that's why he wanted to come in. He wanted to, like, support these other guys, free them, give them good chances on goal, and really build their confidence. And I freaking love that about him, as well as all the other things we love about Leuven. But then that ball just fell to his feet, like, right in the 6-yard box. And he was like, well, I kind of have to shoot it from here, I guess. And then just scores that goal. And, like you could tell he kind of felt bad about it.
It was almost like if I don't shoot this, I'm just mocking your guys' level of being a
Right.
soccer team. So I
Right.
have to put this in the net, but I'm really sorry.
Right. Right. I'm sorry, I'm
So
better than you.
so
Um,
looking ahead to playoffs,
yes. Okay.
how many
So
games do you think we need to win? What do you think our record needs to be for us to really feel secure about the number one seed?
to
Especially
absolutely,
with the way Houston's playing. So by the way, if you didn't know, Houston is still on fire.
they are. So to absolutely win the number one seed, where it does not matter what anyone else does, we have to win 3 games. So if you look at our final 4 games: at Minnesota, home against Sporting Kansas; at Vancouver, home against Seattle. So I could see us winning any three of those four games individually. Two of them are home games where we're very strong. I could see Vancouver's been very, very good lately, but we also just dominated Vancouver earlier in the year, which was right before they found their form, but still. And Minnesota's bad at home and hasn't been that great. So, and they can't really play for the draw. They kind of have to play for the win, which I think means they have to kind of come out against us. But 3 wins automatically gives us the first place. 2 wins makes it almost guaranteed. It basically means that only Vancouver and only LA could pass us if we get 2 wins. And they would both have to win out. They couldn't like get a loss or a tie and secure it from us at that point. Because they would both need either 14 or 17 points, and those are impossible points to get, so they have to win out. If you saw my spreadsheet and the St. Louis City fan page yesterday.
Very pretty spreadsheet, by the way.
Very pretty spreadsheet. And everyone who commented that they love a good spreadsheet and that they've really liked it, like, thank you. It's been the most validating experience of this.
You are feeding the nerds and John and I.
That's right.
John and I went through 6 years of college together because, we're a glutton for punishment. So
we're going to let you guys decide if that's because we did extra school or if it's because we're dumb and decided to do extra school.
Here's the better,
two different types of extra school.
I was like, there's 2 different types of extra school. You either went to extra school because you got an advanced degree. You went to extra school because you couldn't get a degree and you needed extra time. I'd also like to shout out Dick McCall here, also known as Richard McCall, who was probably the first time you and I had a true class that dealt with Excel and spreadsheets.
That's right.
Thank you, Dick McCall.
Thank you for that. Okay, so quick 10-second yes or no, though. Oh, by the way, if you like the spreadsheet, Saturday morning, gonna have another one up. Gonna post it on our page, gonna post it in the fan group. So if you like spreadsheets, take a look at it. The 10-second yes or no. LAFC in their expansion season earned 57 points, but did not win the conference. Okay. If we win the conference, and when they earned 57 points, it was the points record for an expansion team. If we win the conference without breaking their points record, are we the greatest expansion team of all time?
Yes.
I agree. Can only play the people that you're against.
This is why I'd love to give an explanation. I give my answer and I want to give my explanation because I think the Western Conference, they get a lot of shit right now that, the Eastern Conference is so much better. And I think Cincinnati is a solid team. Philadelphia is a solid team. And I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But the reason that the Western Conference does not have a clear, runaway top team is that there's so many good teams there.
There's more parity.
And so it leads to more parity. And I think if you win the conference in a season with this many good teams, I think that makes you a better team than a team that got 57 points when the total quality was was much less.
Right.
Also, I hate LAFC, so we'll always be better.
We will always
Chiellini and Boanga, stop diving, you fucks.
We really should probably just cut it there, but okay. The last thing that I wanted to say, though, is so if you guys watch Extra Time, which is, a major MLS soccer podcast, it's hosted by a guy from Sporting Kansas. So he kind of feels bad and hates us because, our barbecue is better. And, that sucks, Andrew Wiebe. I get that you live in the big city now in New York or New Jersey or whatever, but get over it.
Kansas City barbecue lacks flavor, and we all know it.
So anyway, you also have Andrew Wiebe, and then you have Matt Doyle, who is kind of he's positioned himself as the numbers guy. If you want to play a great drinking game, watch any podcast he's on, any show, and take a shot every time he uses the phrase, the underlying stats. Okay. You'll be blacked out in 30 minutes. Anyway, they're being themselves and they're performing these mental gymnastics, basically, to convince themselves that their original takes that St. Louis was going to be bad is valid. Okay. So Doyle gets on and he says, okay, if you remove the first 5 games of the season, St. Louis has a losing record. in all competitions. Now, he does not say in MLS. He says in all competitions, because for that argument to work, you have to take our 2 losses in Leagues Cup. If you take out those 2 losses, even if you include the U.S. Open Cup, it is a 500 record, period. So in MLS, we have been perfectly 500 since then, which isn't, awesome, but it's also not bad. Like, you're winning half of your
500.
games.
If you win half of your games in MLS, you make the playoffs every time.
Right, right, exactly. You want to know who else has a perfectly 500 record in MLS since their first 5 games?
Please tell me it's Sporting KC.
I have no idea. I didn't bother looking at theirs. I'm sure
I
they're
hope
losing.
they're less than 500. Fuck.
They probably
Their
are.
barbecue lacks flavor, so they're probably
Well, I don't know. They might be winners because they did lose like a lot of games at the beginning of the year in a row. But no, LAFC, the supposed, greatest team in the Western Conference, 500 team if you remove the first 5 games of the season. However, then Weeby, because then Doyle sets up Weeby, like, Weeby, what do you think about this? Blah, blah, blah. And then Weeby comes on and he says, well, I calculated the points in the West since that time. And Vancouver is first in the West with 38 points earned. And then in the second place team in points earned, it's really a group of 3, and St. Louis is one of them. So they are perfectly average. And then, God love him, David Goss, you beautiful, bald-headed genius, comes on and says, you can't do that. That's gymnastics. You're trying to justify a bad take by removing wins from a team. You can't remove wins from a team's record and to say, like, well, they're good or they're bad if you just take out all the times they won. That's stupid. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, yes, my guy, David Goss, love him. Okay, that's all I've got.
So, David Goss, we love you. Thank you for calling out the bullshit. And I agree. David Goss, if you'd like to hop on with us, give us a shout. We'll get you in here and we will praise you for calling out the bullshit. I agree. Weeby is quite possibly my least favorite person to listen to in MLS and soccer sports right now.
Yeah.
With that said, I'm going to leave all of our listeners / viewers, if you're watching my beautiful face, and by beautiful, I mean, I'm sorry you had to see it, with one thing. And I said it earlier in the show, so I apologize for repeating myself. St. Louis City was picked to finish last in the MLS as a whole, in every single prediction by every single expert, by across the board, who, by the way, after last night's tie and a wonderful game, is the first team in the Western Conference to clinch a playoff spot and still on track to win home field advantage, your St. Louis City SC. We are excited. We're pumped. We are ready to go. And God bless. I hope not enough season ticket holders buy their tickets so that I can get playoff tickets all the way through. And I will be at every game. I will call into sick to work, and I don't care. If you love our John, stop laughing. If you love our content, you want to see more, please feel free to make sure you like and follow our podcasts. We are out there on Instagram and Facebook. Our podcasts are available. I'm too busy laughing at John's face right now. Our podcasts are available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We look forward to hearing from you, and don't shy away from giving us a shout out. Quick shout out. We did have a fan who said that he thought he saw us at the game last night, but was scared to come up and say hi. Like, hey, I know you guys. Don't be afraid to come up and say hi. We look forward to meeting you guys, and we hope to see more of you guys soon. Keep your eyes peeled. We are working on getting some merchandise out there soon and some free giveaways. Have a great night, and don't forget to follow.